Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, master's in counseling psychology, longtime astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the transit of Uranus through Gemini. It goes from the 7/7/25 through November 8, 2025, and then he's back from April 25th, 26 through 5/22/33. You're going to want to stay tuned to hear how you're affected. Wait till the end of the episode when I tell you how Uranus through Gemini affects each sun sign. Welcome to the episode on Uranus transiting through Gemini. It's a long transit from 7/7/25 through November 8th, 2025, and then Uranus is back in Gemini from April 25th, 2026 through May 22nd, 2033. In the meantime, from November 8th, 2025 through April 25th, 26, Uranus will retrograde back into Taurus. Time to finish incomplete business. You want to stay tuned until the end of this episode to find out how this 7-year transit is going to affect your sun sign. Get ready. The Uranian roller coaster kicked in on 7/7/25, and Uranus undulates into Gemini until November 8th, 2025, and will come back again in April 2026 through 5/22/33. You think the world has been cray-cray so far? Just wait and see what Gemini and Uranus unveils. There will be inundations of information unfolding as we find things amping up and winding down. And so this is a very powerful, powerful transit. The world as we know it will change beyond what we could imagine. In astrology, Uranus in Gemini signifies a period of innovative yet disruptive change, specifically in the areas of communication, technology, and education. This transit, occurring roughly every 84 years, will last from mid-2025 to 2033. So it's a 7-year transit with that time out in the middle from November 8th, 2025 through April 25th, 2026. And so we will be hit with that Uranian wave of unexpected developments, and we will need to adapt rapidly to rapid advancements. So here we are getting a taste of Uranian unraveling through November 8th, 2025. Luckily, Uranus will retrograde on September 8th, 2025, giving us time to catch our breath. So there will be a time also when Uranus backtracks into the sign Taurus until April 2026. So we can perhaps have a redo on certain things in our life. But there's going to be a lot of changes going on. Stay tuned until the end of the episode to see how each sun sign will be affected. Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra will all be impacted in profound ways with many, many changes, whether self-imposed or by the universe. And they may be more willing to go with the flow as they receive the Uranian energies from fellow air sign Gemini. Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius will be more uncomfortable with the erratic energies of Uranus. And here's a brief heads up for the key impacts of Uranus and Gemini in the next 7 years. So Gemini in astrology rules communication, and Uranus is the planet of revolution. So we'll see some revolution in communication. We're going to see lots of shifts. We think it's been pretty crazy with AI. It's going to get even more wild and unexpected. In fact, AI is already doing astrology readings and spiritual readings for people. So we can't even expect what's going to come next. But I think that you should always go with a human. Always defer to a human for that heartfelt expression. But we're going to see significant shifts in how we communicate. And we're going to see major technological advancements related to communication, including the internet and digital media. And don't be surprised if so many more platforms start arising. And I do think that I have seen this for years, that perhaps there can be some communication technology that brings the good news and not the dire news that we hear. So anybody who decides to do that and creates a good news network or channel, I think people will flock to it. We'll also see technological advancements when Uranus is in Gemini with things like I said, artificial intelligence, the metaverse, and other technologies, potentially reshaping our relationship with technology and affecting our social structures. Because Gemini is an educational sign, we're going to see innovations in how we learn. We can expect disruptions in the traditional systems of education in some way. There'll be more of a focus on adaptability and embracing new ways of acquiring knowledge. We're going to have to be more flexible, open-minded, and be agile in embracing the new information. If we look back in time, remember when ATMs hit and people were freaking out and they didn't want to do their banking through a machine. They wanted to go through people at a bank, but then that quickly adapted into our society. And then think about computers and their various evolutions and how people were like, what's the internet? No, I'm not going to buy or use my credit cards on the internet to exchange cash. And now everybody does. And then the next wave were the phones, and specifically the iPhones and the Apple technology, and some were embracing it and some were hesitant, feeling like they were giving away too much of themselves or too much of their financial information. Well, why don't we just amplify all that on steroids? And that's what we're going to deal with Uranus and Gemini. So get ready for major changes. And the other thing that could go down too is that the grid could go down because Uranus brings unexpected things, such as think of lightning flashes. And when lightning hits a building, it could catch on fire. Very unexpected. Uranus's symbolic expression is lightning. So we're going to see changes in lightning speed, but we're also going to see unexpected hits or changes in things like policies, transportation, social structures. So there can be disruption, as I said, in things like the electrical grid and in the way we travel. So that includes airlines and air travel because Gemini is an air sign. And we're already seeing that. We're already seeing certain systems for airline travel have been going through challenges and a lot of situations in the news with airplanes having issues. And then there's also the whole situation with turbulence when flying, that there's been unprecedented turbulence. And so not to be a Debbie Downer, but we're going to have to pick those windows when it's appropriate to travel. That's where astrology comes in again, when there are good aspects, and perhaps not when Uranus is going to be squaring some of the other planets. And then the good thing about Uranus is we're going to see when it goes through Gemini, there'll be a lot of personal transformation. There'll be breakthroughs. People are going to have aha moments, awakenings, a little bit of information they may get from a person or from the internet or another source may create an awakening or consciousness shift. So that is always a good thing. And so, again, the theme here is that Uranus and Gemini is like throwing lightning bolts into the world of communication, technology, transportation, travel, and human connections. It's a mental and social revolutionary cycle. So get ready. So the massive shifts in communication, which Uranus and Gemini will bring, let's think about that. As I said, obviously AI is here to stay. It's going to go through some major advancements, as is social media, because of things like AI being integrated into it and people being more discriminating and discerning what they post on social media. So we'll see some transformation, maybe more censorship, maybe more discernment. We'll also see that something called neural link technologies, such as binaural beats and other things may evolve so that people can wire in to help their brainwaves. There may be new computer languages or communication technologies emerging. In an earlier Uranus through Gemini cycle, the printing press was actually born. And then when Uranus was in Aquarius, fellow air sign, guess who came to town? The birth of the internet. So we see major advancements in communication when Uranus goes through an air sign. The ruler of Uranus in astrology is actually Aquarius. So, but in Gemini, it's going to be very much at home. And when it has been in the sign Libra, it also brings advancements in technology. So some of the old systems of communication could break down and could collapse. We're already seeing some stress with major networks. And so the old school way of getting information through the classic network TV could be replaced by radically decentralized, fast-moving networks. So enjoy it while you can. We're also going to see, as I mentioned earlier, major shifts in transportation and mobility. So I keep waiting for the improvements in air travel where there aren't wait times, where they upgrade the planes, they upgrade the air traffic systems, they get people in there or technologies in there that can do a lot of this work to prevent airplane collisions and some of the other manifestations we've seen in air travel in the last few years. So we would love to see that great advances with travel technology, such as hypersonic planes. Guess what? People are going to have those flying cars show up maybe between now and 2033. And then the navigation systems being highly refined and reliable. The other thing about transportation is that where maybe there are borders or issues with getting from one place to another, we may see those removed, and we may see an increase in actual global connectivity. And going to the other area that Gemini rules and Uranus in Gemini may have a big effect is in educational domain and information and schooling. So traditional schooling could be disruptive by tech-based or AI-led learning. Again, this whole issue that has been going on with what is the truth or what is fake news, we'll see that enhanced because we've seen this theme of people making up information or making up news, and then those who follow the particular person who's made up the information start believing it. So unfortunately, we're going to see more of that. Gemini is the sign, sorry, Geminis, but it is the sign of the liar or the silver-tongued ones. So Geminis can sell you that swampland in Florida. So again, people are going to have to get very discerning what's the truth and what's false. And that's where intuition comes in. So that's not such a good thing because people, unless they really tune in and have intuition, may get very confused and trust sources that are basically untrue. And we're already seeing that. So that's going to just get more enhanced, unfortunately. And then there are going to be rapid shifts in the way the collective thinks, which could be really good for innovation, but like I said, could create chaos with information and information distribution. And again, what's the truth and what has been a party line, or what does a group that happens to be in power want people to think is the truth. So we're going to have more of that kind of information confusion. Again, go on my website, JillJardineAstrology.com, and listen to my Develop Your Intuition workshop, because it's going to be our intuition that gets us through these times. There's going to be a lot of social and political situations happening. Some could be breakthroughs. We'll see Uranus's rebellious streak in Gemini amplify social debates and ideological clashes And groups of people with Pluto in Aquarius, harmonized with Uranus in Gemini, will get together to stand up and rebel for their beliefs and for breakthroughs in what's best for the collective. So we could see that there could be issues around freedom of speech, censorship, and the truth. On the other side, grassroots movements and global conditions might rise up suddenly, powered by digital organizing. So if you're in the United States and you have your tribe, you could actually connect with a tribe of people in somewhere like Romania who are on the same page as you and be rallying for a similar or the same cause. It's going to be really exciting in that respect. And then when we look at people's personal lives, people might experience restlessness. They want things to be more stimulating. There's going to be a desire for freedom, freedom from the old constructs, freedom from control by those in power, the desire for financial freedom. People will think outside of the box and really look at what is important for them. Uranus is the higher minds in astrology, what we would call the genius, and it's coming into the lower mind represented by Gemini. So people are going to have very powerful connections with their higher selves or with a higher source of information that is not coming from the media or from social media or from what they're hearing out there in the world. So that's very exciting. And people will have to learn how to adapt quickly, stay open to unconventional ideas, and be able to pivot in fast-changing environments. Relationships and networks may become more diverse, and things will become less geographically bound and more connection, as I said, with like-minded people. Find your tribe anywhere on the planet and connect. So to better understand Uranus going through the sign Gemini, it does make sense to look back to the previous times in the last 200 years when Uranus was in Gemini. Remember, it comes back every 84 years. So let's look at the two previous cycles, which would have happened in the 1900s and 1800s. So the most recent cycle with Uranus and Gemini and the people who were born then was from 1942 to 1949. And basically something happens when Uranus comes back to where it is in your chart. It's called the Uranus return. And basically in astrology, we can even say in Western astrology, you've lived a full lifetime if you make it through your Uranus return at 84 years old. And it does bring in something sometimes that you didn't think at that age that you would get this new experience, but it can bring in a very powerful new experience. But during the last Uranus and Gemini period, 1942 to 1949, we had World War II, and then the rebuilding cycle after it, which included the birth of the United Nations and the dawn of the computer age. And so the United Nations was, as we know, the connecting globally of those countries who had power to say what was going to come next. So that was pivotal. So maybe we'll have another global consortium of certain countries and nations that will help guide the planet in the coming years. Then before 1942 and 1949, the earlier Uranus and Gemini cycle was from 1858 through 1866. This was very much connected to communication and transportation. We had the telegraph expand. There was a push for mass literacy. And there were transportation revolutions with things back then, the train systems around the world. But it was also a time of social upheaval and shifting national identities. The common thread during 1858 through 1866 and 1942 to 1949, the previous Uranus through Gemini periods, are that radical changes in how humans connected, moved, and shared ideas came out of tension and upheaval. So I guess we have that to look forward to. There'll be massive changes in how we connect, move, and share ideas, and there could be a bout of upheaval and tension that goes with it. So there are some other major outer planet transits this time with Uranus going through Gemini in the next 7 years that are going to affect this particular transit. In fact, there's so much air and fire. So we're going to have Uranus connect and aspect Pluto in Aquarius, fellow air sign. And then the outer planet Neptune is transiting Aries, a fire sign. Saturn is also transiting Aries, a fire sign. And Jupiter will go into another fire sign, Leo, from 2026 to 2027. So fire and air, quite the volatile combo. So let's look at the Uranus and Gemini harmonizing with Pluto and Aquarius. They're going to be in what we call a trine. So this starts in 2025 and goes through 2043. And the theme with Uranus and Gemini trining Pluto and Aquarius, it's the digital social revolution. Pluto and Aquarius has already been re-engineering society structures around technologies, communities, and networks strongly since 2024. Then we throw the Uranus and Gemini into the mix, and Uranus and Gemini is the accelerator, creating lightning-fast communication tools and social linkages. So what could happen during this time period, 2024 to 2043? Oh, we'll see AI make quantum leaps. There could be some huge advances in biotech communication and planetary networks. A lot of advances in science, obviously, as well as medicine, thanks to the information and also discoveries like what is the source of this or what is the cause of that. So it goes without saying there's going to be a lot of information coming in about space, the final frontier, and perhaps other planets that are viable and other beings that may be coming from advanced civilizations. So, yeah, it's Star Trek. We're going to have a lot of interesting information coming through. A lot of people have been waiting many years for disclosure, the evidence that the American government has since Roswell in the 40s and 50s, that there are other intelligences that come to our Earth, and they're not AI. They could be from other star systems. So all of that is probably going to really come into our awareness, and there may be validation between now and 2043.
Hallelujah!
There's also going to be a lot of shifting in government. Pluto is power. And so the power elite could shift. And what Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini said that these changes could be fast. And it could be that the power switches from a few to groups in power. So we may see major government shifting from traditional governance models to more collective ways of ruling. And again, Uranus and Gemini can be very revolutionary and rebellious and idealized. So we could see groups of people who have a certain ideology or are revolutionary in nature trying to take over governments around the world. So get ready for that. The other thing is that when it comes to rebellion, we'll see a lot more activism. Uranus and Gemini, and it would probably come through information first and then in person, but it could come either way. And also a rising up when people realize they've been duped and have been told lies, and the truth is revealed. The truth will set you free. And that is Uranus's keynote, freedom. So we're going to get a lot of truth revelations coming up, more than we've ever seen. And the fact is that so many people will realize that they've been lied to, that there's no glossing it over, which has been going on in the recent years, that people who are in power have been getting away with certain things just because they're holding power. But we're going to see that whole model shift. And the whole misinformation being okay will become less tenable as we go into this age. So as we go from the 2020s into the 2030s could be remembered as the decade when humanity's mental, social, and tech landscapes permanently changed. Hey, Cosmic Scene listeners, Jill Jardine here, and I've got something out of this world to share with you. Introducing the Cosmic Tower, a revolutionary energy harmonizing device designed to uplift your space, restore vitality, and bring coherence to your life. It's like plugging into the cosmos right from your living room. These towers are transforming homes, clearing EMFs, and awakening higher frequencies. And now you can experience it for yourself. I recently received my very own Cosmic Tower, and the experience has been truly magical. I've been feeling drained from work with physical pain flaring up, but within 2 hours of setting up the tower, my energy returned, my spirit lifted, and I felt ready for life again. I am so excited to be living with the Cosmic Tower and want you to learn more about it too. So check out thewellnessenterprise.com and tap into the frequency of the future. And guess what? If you use the code COSMIC10, that's capital COSMIC, all capitals, 10, COSMIC10 at checkout for 10% off your own Cosmic Tower. The other major outer planetary transit that will happen when Uranus transits through Gemini will be Uranus in Gemini aspecting Neptune in Aries in a favorable way, a 60 degrees aspect called the sextile in astrology. And that will go on from 2025 to 2039. So that's a 14-year transit there. And the theme during that time will be tech disruption and visionary action. So the Neptune in Aries is about idealistic crusades and spiritualized individuality. Aries is about the individual. Then Uranus with Gemini will bring in tools to spread these ideas rapidly, sometimes in an uplifting or spiritual way, but sometimes it can be chaotic, or Neptune likes to throw a fog at people. So some of this can be very delusional energies, delusional groups trying to get their message out. Or we could say cultish groups trying to get their message out. So we have to be on the lookout for that and not get sucked into that energy when it shows up. We could see that certain global movements spread rapidly. We can also see innovations that are powered by humanitarian or active causes. And then everybody's going to want to get on the tech pipeline, and we could see things popping up that don't have safeguards or could actually expose people's personal information. Neptune is sometimes a thief and can dissolve certain things. So we have to be very careful and vigilant. And Uranus in Gemini aspecting Neptune in Aries could bring a really nice spiritual revolution, but it can also bring a revolution in shysters, or those who want to steal your identity, your money, or your power. So be careful. The other major transit will be when Uranus is transiting Gemini, that it aspects Saturn going through Aries. Again, it's the air of Gemini to the fire of Aries. It's a 60 degrees aspect called the sextile. It's considered harmonious. This is a shorter transit from 2026 to 2028. And so this will bring a lot of new ideas. Saturn in Aries wants to pioneer, but also test for structural integrity. In fact, Saturn is a really good policer of the Neptune in Aries. So Saturn will be like, wait a minute here, let's test this out. Don't be so fast to get on that pipeline there. Let's make sure it's viable. So in a way, Saturn in Aries will help to check the energies of Neptune in Aries. Uranus may throw disruptive experiments into the mix, We could see clashes between innovators and technological developers against authority figures over safety, regulation, and ethics. There could be failures of overly ambitious technological or transportational advancements, which will then be followed by rapid improvements. So from 2026 to 2028, we might get a lot of experimental energy coming in. It's being tried out. It may not take initially, but it's really going to set up experiments and new energies for the coming years. And then we have Uranus in Gemini harmonizing with Jupiter in Leo in 2026 through 2027. Again, this is a air Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, harmonizing with fire, Jupiter in Leo. And so this is going to be very exciting. We're going to see some revolutions in entertainment. The whole movie industry will probably get a big boost. We'll probably see many more streaming platforms or enhancements to the existing streaming platforms. We'll see immersive art. AI may have its own little entertainment industry develop. And so we'll see that the whole creative area will expand. We'll see much more enhanced visuals and graphics and lifelike representations through the media. So when we look at this cycle with Uranus and Gemini interacting with Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn from 2026 to 2033, we're going to see massive connectivity. We're going to see a lot of new ideas and information come through. We're going to probably see improvements in transportation. There'll be a radical decentralization of power and knowledge. As humans, we have to be very, very adaptable, and there can be some instability or challenges that come through as all of this is being implemented. So people have to be very open-minded. And again, I think the only way to navigate is to be very grounded and develop your own intuition and be very much in your body. All of this is very heady energy, by the way, because Gemini is an air sign, and air signs rule our mental energy. Pluto's in Aquarius, so a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts. And then fire tends to be more creative. It can be spiritual. But we don't have a lot of earth and water really enhancing our feeling nature or our earthy or grounded nature. So we're going to have to compensate personally and get really grounded, be in touch with our emotions, because we can be swept into the whirlwind of these air and fire outer planets. It's very, very excited, but my advice during these years is just to stay really grounded. Make sure you have your group of heart-centered friends around you, and that you have a way to check your own reality with what's happening in the collective. If I was going to break down each year on what the big main themes were, let's start with 2026. That's when Uranus enters Gemini to stay, April 25th through 26th, 2026. So that's going to be a big one. So I have said to people, 2025 is a year of feeling all the energy potential, but perhaps not making any big decisions, because once we get into the spring, late spring of 2026, all these outer planets will be going direct and moving beyond the initial degrees of the air and fire planets. So we have some time. We have some time between when this is being broadcast in August of 2025 through April 2026 to just feel things out, regroup, reboot, recalibrate, and then perhaps begin your new life with the new energies in spring of 2026. So during May through July of 2026, Uranus will start its first sextile with Neptune, which will be in early Aries. So that's looking at the dream versus the reality you want to bring through. From June through September, watch for information bubbles. Big visions may outpace reality. In 2027, we're going to have Uranus square Saturn in Aries from July to November, the first reality check. Innovation meets regulation. New tech may be paused, restructured, or face backlash. That's in 2027 and 2028. We're going to have some polarization, perhaps volatility from January through April 2028. Uranus sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. Tech and social structure fuse in ways that feel exciting but also irreversible. From the summer to fall of 2028, Uranus will square Neptune in Aries, so there can be some confusion, some misinformation, some delusions, mass idealism meets tech tools, distortion of reality. 2028, rah. 2029, things are going to accelerate quite a bit when Uranus continues through mid-Gemini, which will activate the outer planets for many born in the 80s and 90s. From spring through summer, Uranus will trine Libra planets, Jupiter or Saturn, depending on the retrogrades. For those people born during that time, we're going to see new legal frameworks for digital service systems. We're going to see perhaps new legal frameworks for digital systems. 2030 is going to be the peak creative but yet chaotic innovation. Uranus trines Pluto in Aquarius. There could be mass adoption of radical social technologies. We could see global governance or quantum communication tools. In 2031, there could be shocks in governance. Uranus is going to square Virgo planets, Jupiter and Saturn cycle. There could be tensions between tech progress and systems of work, health, and service. Labor markets and education systems face major overhauls. In 2032, we see the climax cycle. Uranus conjuncts the North Node in Gemini, collective karmic leap in communication, travel, and thought evolution. And then in 2033, exit stage left on May 22nd, Uranus enters Cancer, shifting the revolution from mental technology to home security and emotional frameworks. So we get back to the emotional body after 7 years in the mental body. So you might be wondering, how do you navigate between 2025 and 2033? Well, as I said earlier, stay flexible, be adaptable, get very clear. Use this time to develop your own spiritual connection and intuition. And find your tribe, Pluto and Aquarius, harmonizing with Uranus and Gemini. Find those like-minded people, because then that will help support whatever it is that you're trying to bring forth on the planet. And don't be fearful. And here's the part of the episode you've been waiting for. How will Uranus transiting through Gemini affect your zodiac sign? Let's go. Aries. Wow. Are you going to be lit up? As is your third house of communication, learning, and local connections. Your mind is on overdrive. Don't forget, you're going to have Saturn for 3 years going through your own sign, and you're going to have Neptune there. So you're really being put through the ringer. However, some of the benefits will be new ideas, skills, and connections. Expect sudden opportunities to teach, publish, or become a thought leader. And there will be a focus on your siblings, your neighbors, and taking short trips. Flexibility in how you communicate is very important. And this is a huge new beginning for you, Aries. So if there's anything you ever wanted to trot out in your life, this is the time to do it. And again, those years are from 2025 to 2033. Taurus. And this is for sun sign or rising sign. So for Aries rising or Aries sun, now we're getting to Taurus sun or Taurus rising. Oh boy, here we go. Uranus is moving into your second house of money and values. Your income sources and material priorities could shift radically. You might leave behind old security patterns and embrace new earning methods. And you're going to want to move around. You're going to want to be mobile. You're going to want to have resources come to you to fund your higher ideas. Investments could be volatile, but get ready as new streams of income come in, and you're very innovative the way you manage your money. Gemini or Gemini rising, it's your time to shine. You are evolving, revolving, revolting in a good way, rebelling, but you're reinventing yourself as well. So you're looking at everything in your life, how you look, who is in your life, your relationships, even your life path, or what we call dharma, can change in ways you couldn't predict. You'll be more experimental, freedom driven, and ready to live outside the box. People may think you're a little wacky, but it's okay because you're going to go into new frontiers. You might be a little restless, so always keep yourself looking ahead for that new adventure, Gemini. Cancer or Cancer rising, Uranus is going to enter your 12th house, awakening your inner world. You're going to remember things from this life, from past lives. Your spiritual practices could really wake up. And some of the old fears and limiting beliefs may dissolve suddenly, and you'll experience freedom. Remember your dreams and any intuition that comes because they can be startlingly accurate. You could have precognitive dreams about what is to come. This is a great time. You're going to rewire yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. And if you wanted to do any kind of self expression of your soul, this is the time to do it. Leo and Leo rising. Uranus is going through your 11th house, bringing new friends, communities, and causes that feel inspiring. You may join or start cutting edge social movements or tech based groups. Friendships may change rapidly as you release people or you bring in new people. You're going to find ways to really enhance your outreach in the world. Virgo or Virgo rising. Uranus shakes up your 10th house of career and public image. Don't be surprised if you decide to quit your job suddenly because it no longer aligns with your life purpose. So there's sudden shifts in professional direction, and you may be guided to your true calling, Virgo. You may become known for your innovative or unconventional work. Authority figures can be unpredictable, and you may rebel. So find your path and let the changes happen. Libra or Libra rising, your 9th house of travel, higher learning, and belief systems gets electrified. You could relocate, travel abroad, engage in radical educational opportunities. You may write and publish, and this is a time for you broadening your horizons. However, it may be disruptive and force growth. And because Libra is the sign of relationships, don't be surprised if relationships end suddenly and then new ones come in. Scorpio rising. Uranus energized your 8th house of the subconscious, transforming how you handle shared resources, intimacy, and deep psychological patterns. You can finally heal some issues that have been restricting you so that you can move through your life with a new sense of freedom. And Uranus will bring liberation from some old patterns that have hindered you. You may see sudden changes in investments, inheritances, or partners' finances. Intimacy could be more experimental with emotional breakthroughs that free you from old fears. Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising. Uranus is transiting your 7th house of relationships. So, yes, you may end relationships suddenly. New people can come in. We're talking partnerships. We're talking work relationships. We're talking friendships. All of these areas are being impacted. You probably have grown, and so those people that you have in your inner circle may no longer fit for you, Sagittarius. You'll attract people who challenge your thinking and introduce you to new ideas or lifestyles. Freedom and mental stimulation become important in relationships, and business partners may change. They'll only work if they can keep up with your Sagittarian higher visions. Capricorn or Capricorn rising. Your 6th house of work, health, and daily routines become a lab for experimentation. You might shift careers, adopt unconventional wellness practices, or embrace remote or tech-driven work. You certainly will be interested in new healing technologies for yourself or those in your family. You're going to probably have some health shocks come up maybe in a good way, but maybe not so much. And you'll seek alternative modes of healing for prevention, maintenance, and curing anything that ails you. You're going to also be asked to be very adaptable in your schedule and ready to rise to any occasion. Aquarius or Aquarius rising, Uranus in your fifth house jolts your creativity, romance, and self-expression. Love affairs could come in from unexpected places, show up suddenly, burn bright, and offer transformation. Your creativity is through the roof. Your creative projects could go viral or take unexpected turns. Your children may be evolving faster than you would expect, and they can surprise you as they become very innovative or that they are independent in their ways of thinking or acting. So Aquarius, get ready to expand your creative horizons. Pisces or Pisces rising, your fourth house of home, family, and roots, get the Uranian shakeup. You might move suddenly, renovate, or live in unconventional housing. Family dynamics could shift rapidly, perhaps as you break from traditions. A desire for more freedom in your personal life drives decisions about how and where you live. And so home is where the heart is. You're going to follow your heart, and that will dictate where you want to dwell, both internally and in your external life. So really get clear as to what is important to you and what makes you feel secure, even though it's a crazy world, and really connect to that inner sense of peace and well-being, Pisces. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the transit of Uranus through the sign Gemini. Remember to download, share, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, sending quantum currents of Uranian electrical energies through the quantum field.